Here he is, Matty Leinart. What's up, brother? How you doing?
God, whenever I get the call to come on this show, it just gets my juices flowing.
Stop. That's you guys always.
But you want to know why? Because it's USC week. You know, we get USC, and then it's fine though. Listen, man. I'll do whatever for you, buddy. I love you, man.
I love you as well. And yeah, I wanted to bring you on. I thought this was a perfect week. One, you got to run out of the tunnel last week because they had that super late game, 8 p.m. local here on the West Coast. So after we got done on Big Noon Saturday, you could get back and run out of the tunnel for USC as they took on Michigan State. But then we also have them this week against Illinois. There it is. We're showing it right now. How about that, dude? You got to take me back. How was it leading the Trojans out onto the field?
So this was an incredible night. And, this kind of got brought up. I talked to the guys earlier in the summer, and they're like, hey, we'd love to run you out the tunnel. And you know how it is. Like, it's almost impossible to go to a USC game because we're on the road every week unless timing works out. This happened to be the time. So I reached out, said, hey, I'm here. They're like, oh my God, yes, let's do it. So we get there. And the coolest part, Joel, for me was, one, I was able to take Cole, my oldest, who's he's been able to do this before, but then I was able to take Kaysen, my almost 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And my other one had wanted nothing to do with it. He was exhausted from Utah. They went to Utah too. Like, it was a whole family trip. And he was like, Daddy, I'm staying home. I don't want to do it. But Kaysen is like, he's attached to my hip. He wants to do everything Daddy wants to do. So in that regard, it was just so awesome to kind of be on the field and see everybody, and just the interaction is great. And then, the fans, like, it was packed. It was awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like there is a little bit of a buzz about USC this year.
I was going to say, there seems to be some juice right now.
There is juice, and that, I mean, gosh, we've seen the Coliseum the last handful of years, and I hate to say the word embarrassing, but sometimes it is. It's like you can't even pack it. It's at times, and there's a buzz, there's some juice, and to be able to run those guys out with the fam right next to me, kind of watching, it was just really cool, man. It was. It's always good to be back. It's so many great memories, obviously. And I'm happy. Look, I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, as most USC fans are right now. But it was certainly just awesome to be back and be a part of that, and see some guys too. See a lot of my former buddies.
Let's talk about some of that optimism.
Yep.
So, okay, so those of you at home, Matt and I are sitting down. It's Tuesday afternoon right now. We're talking Tuesday afternoon. So I've been Monday and Tuesday are big film days for me, as you know, prepping for the games. And I've watched a little bit of USC just because I've been impressed from afar. As you know, we've talked about this on some of our calls, the Big Noon kickoff calls. But as I dug in the last day and a half to the film, I got to tell you, Matt, like, this is not just easy front end of the schedule. I think USC is much more for real than anybody is giving them credit for around the country. Like, I think they're underrated right now as, what are they, 22, 23, something along those lines?
Yeah, I've watched pretty much every game this year on film, and obviously watched the TV and all these things. And, you try not to get excited because we've had fast starts. We've had fast starts before, and then they don't know how to finish, and then you get into Big Ten play, and you got to be able to sustain that type of play, the physicality of the game, especially in this conference. But to your point, it's taken some time, but it does look different. I think you can start in the trenches. The offensive line is playing really well. They look more physical. Now, again, time will tell when they start to play. They got Illinois, but you got Michigan's and Notre Dame's coming up on the schedule. They look more physical. I think, and I know I want to talk about the run game and the offense, but I think the defensive line is the biggest thing for me. And Joel, we get a chance to see these teams in person, and sometimes you can just tell, right? You can tell the way they look, the way they move, the athleticism.
I mean, that was almost the entire basis of me loving Oregon.
Well, exactly.
They're huge at the right spots.
When you see Oregon in person, you're like, that they look the part and they can play. You see Ohio State, they look the part, they can play. USC has finally gotten to that point, seeing them this weekend and standing in the end zone and seeing where the D linemen go and the O linemen go. And I'm like, dude, like, we got some dudes now. Like they're young and they need more depth and they need to continue to recruiting, but they got some guys. So I think the reason for optimism is we're a lot better up front on both sides of the ball. We're more physical. And then you have, you know, gosh, you have a quarterback who I'm just in love with Jayden Maiava, man. I'm in love with what he's doing. And he's gotten so much better from a year ago,
So
you know,
much
and
better.
so
So much better. He's playing really at a high level. I think a lot of it is what they're helping him do in the run game. You know, I talk about that a lot. That I've always felt that Lincoln Riley's superpower at Oklahoma was that they were such a great running team. Yeah, they torched people in the passing game, but they were such a great running team for all of those years. And in fact, I brought it up on our call again, and I've said it on my show before. During Riley's tenure at OU, they were the number one team in the country as far as yards per rush over that time frame.
Yep.
And they're similar to that now. Wayman Jordan is fantastic. To your point about the size, by the way, just some numbers to back that up for people listening. The defensive line, more particular. The average size of their two deep on the defensive line is now 300 pounds. That's their average weight is 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, it was 278. That is a huge difference. New guys like Jakeem Stewart, who was basically next year's number one recruit that reclassified. Should be a high schooler.
Scratching the surface. Like,
and he's good.
Yeah, he's good.
He's really good.
I would say that I think the last couple years, and it's interesting because, you know, we get so caught up in the moment and people want to fire people and this and that. It's hard. You got to build, and it's hard to build in this era of the portal and all these things. The run first mentality that you kind of mentioned and kind of going back to Oklahoma, last year, in the last couple of years, and I'm getting to the point because I think the quarterback really matters in this discussion, is he is last year is like they would just get away from the run, right? You would run. Woody Marks was fantastic. You get away, and then all of a sudden it's like they're throwing the ball 4 or 5 times in a row, and it's just like, why? Just why? And maybe there wasn't as much of a trust on the offensive line and the quarterback play and all that. And I think I was thinking about this because you and I have talked about this, and this isn't a secret. Like, he's had Caleb Williams and Miller Moss are the last two quarterbacks Lincoln has had in the last handful of years. Caleb Williams was one of one talent. I mean, look what he just did last week. Like, he's a freak talent, but you were very limited with what you could do with him because of the just this improvisation and the backyard ball and all that. He was just so good at that in college, and he could get away with it. But I think it handcuffs a play caller, which we've talked about, right? It kind of plays without the system. So you had that, and then you had not a great offensive line in those first couple of years, right? So you had that part. So it was like, okay, how do we figure out this offense? And then you go to Miller Moss, who I love Miller. I've known Miller since he was literally 5 years old. Very much a game manager. Couldn't run the football, wasn't a factor in the run game. He could, you know, he was a high IQ guy, but he was very limited with what he could do, right? So then there was that extreme. Now all of a sudden you get Jayden Maiava, who I think is right dead set in the middle, right? I think he's athletic, he can run. He chooses, I mean, he's a pass first guy, which I love, but he can run and make plays, so he can stress a defense. He can improvise. He had a great play last week against Michigan State where he ran, and he also had the touchdown I think we just showed in the highlight. But he's also very good from the pocket. He's not turning the football over. So I think my point is like Lincoln finally has a quarterback kind of like what he had and probably like a Baker and some of those guys in Oklahoma that just fits everything he's doing. And now all of a sudden we're seeing it all come to fruition, if that makes sense, you know?
So ceiling, let's talk ceiling for this group. We've got them this week against Illinois. And after what we saw Illinois do last week against Indiana, which was not much, the injuries that they have in their secondary, now all of a sudden I thought this was going to be a coin flip game for USC. Yeah. Like, we'll see what happens. Now, all of a sudden, this has turned into a game. It's like, hey, you got to go win this game on the road. Well, talk to me about ceiling for this group. What do you think? What do you think it is then Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, Oregon later on the road? What can they do?
They have Washington. Do they have Washington as well?
No, not sure they do not have Washington.
So I think the ceiling is I think they're a playoff team. I think that's the ceiling. I think they can get.
Does that mean 10-2? Just so that we're all like clear, because I don't think 9-3 gets in. So you think they're like a 10-2, 11-1 team?
I think they're a 10-2 team, and I think 10-2 USC has got a great shot at getting into the playoff. And this is just, I literally look at this week and the next 5 weeks. And maybe I think Oregon's in November maybe, but you have Illinois, which I think the USC is going to win this weekend. But then you have Michigan, you have Nebraska, you have Notre Dame, and then you're at Oregon. I think Oregon's a tough one for them on the road. You have to win 2 of those 4 games. You have to basically win 2 of you have to beat Notre Dame and Illinois and Michigan, assuming there's a loss to Oregon down the stretch, right? So I think 10-2 is in the playoff. And again, look, they were really bad on the road last year. They couldn't close out games. So far, so good, but like this is where you kind of get into the meat of your schedule. This is where you kind of say, all right, can we sustain this type of play? We got depth, but we're fairly thin in some areas. The pass defense is not very good at the moment, right? That's one thing that can concern you if against the Oregons of the world, and even Notre Dame with CJ Carr can throw the football. So, but I think to your point, Joel, I think they're a 10-2, 11-1 team if they continue to play. They are. I mean, look, we could say they haven't played anybody this and that. Like they're dominating in every facet of the game, and they've improved in every area of the game.
Okay, you brought up coaching earlier, and we did see our first coaching change. Mike Gundy out at Oklahoma State. Here's the question I have for you. What do you think about the Oklahoma State job?
Is it a good job?
Yeah, where do you rank it? Well, is it a good job? Where do you think it sits in college football?
Yeah, I mean, I think years ago and again, he was great. I mean, he's had a lot of great years there, and you could argue kind of now with the way the shift of college football and everything, and maybe the lack of resources they have now in comparison to other schools, it's not as a sexy job as it probably once was. I don't know if it's a great job anymore, Joel. I don't maybe for, a younger coach who's trying to get into a Power 4 team and trying to build something, but harder to recruit there, I think. And, the lack of, they've had resources in the past, right? And then I think they've lost some of that. So, but I would just say this, I think probably was time for change, in my opinion. Nothing but respect for coach, but probably time for change and to go and just to have a new kind of heartbeat of the team and a new voice of the team, because they've just struggled. They've struggled the last couple of years.
Other big news, and I know I touched on it earlier, but just wanted your thoughts on it because we've talked at length about this guy and how much we've loved his play. But John Mateer, he's
tough news.
The news about his the surgery that he's going to have because of the broken bone in his hand, and then now the timeline becomes in question. Is it going to be 3 weeks? Is it going to be 4 weeks? Are we looking at a month? Your thoughts on Mateer, and first, Matt, what you've thought of him so far. Because I know you've been high on him from even a Heisman perspective. And then what do you think Oklahoma can do without him in this next month?
I think, I was talking about him week 1 and just knowing kind of the player he was at Washington State and his ability in college football, right, to take over a game. And that's what he's done every single week. The kid is an absolute stud. He's so much, you look at you look at some of these other quarterbacks, even Jayden Maiava is fitting the system, right? But Longstreet's come in and performed at a high level. You can take sometimes quarterbacks out of systems, plug and still be efficient. I don't know about this one, man, because he is so ball dominant in the way he plays with his running ability, with the quarterback design runs, and he's a great passer. He's a great player. I said it a couple weeks on Big News. He just reminds me of Baker Mayfield, the whole kind of aura about him, right? He just kind of plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think he's way more athletic than Baker was. I think they're in trouble, man. I really do. Hawkins, is that Hawkins, the kid from he's the backup, right?
Yeah, he played a little bit last year. Yeah.
I'd be curious. I think you probably watched more tape on him, but it's just, it's just a major downgrade, right?
Totally.
However you look at it, and then you just look at the schedule. That's the biggest thing. I know they have a easy one this week, but they have Texas, I think South Carolina, and then you just get in the meat of the SEC.
Yeah.
To be, you got to probably 10-2 again, maybe a 9. I don't know, man. I think they're in trouble, and who knows how long he's out. What do you think? You think they can withstand the next
let's put it this way.
weeks.
If you were going to have him, if he had to miss a month, like better it happen right now than
for
late,
sure.
Because the late part of their study. Now, granted, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, he's going to miss Red River," but they've got Kent State, they've got South Carolina, then they've got Ole Miss, and then just an onslaught at the end where they've got to face teams like Alabama and Missouri and Ole Miss and Auburn and LSU. That's kind of their last half. He has to be ready for that, Matt. If they're going to survive the season at all, he has to be ready for that. So if you're going to have him miss some time, this is it. I think that their hope would be that he can somehow magically or with the quick healing come back for the Ole Miss game. But go ahead.
Is there a player more important to their team than John Mateer?
No.
Right?
No, because for instance, and I talked about this earlier right here on the show, they can't run the football at all without him. When you're talking about just running back yards per rush, they're 130th in the country. It's a stat that I shared earlier on the program. They can't do anything without him. They don't beat Michigan without John Mateer. They don't beat Auburn without John Mateer. And they don't have many answers outside of him. So with him on the sideline, this is going to be a huge question mark. I don't think they beat Texas. They certainly are not going to beat Ole Miss, maybe not South Carolina. So he's got to get back as quickly as possible.
And the Heisman too, which is a bummer, because I know a lot of these kids.
Where's this race at?
I was thinking about this. I thought he was for sure the front runner. This is just unfortunately going to knock him out of the race. And I think it is a cluster of you can go a million different ways. I think Dante Moore is going to be right up there, especially with the opportunity he has this weekend. I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it, but I think Maiava and Jordan at USC have a real shot. Like Maiava's numbers are better than Caleb's at this point in the season. And for me, for Heisman, it's how do you play? I mean, on the road, ranked teams, the better team. Like, how do you perform in those moments? Right, that's the big thing. Just tons of opportunities. Like Maiava is a stud. He's got opportunities, and Waymon Jordan, the running back, who no one knows about right now, but they will know about after your call this weekend, because that kid's an absolute stud. I mean, you could go Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. I think he's been great. I mean, so much better. Yeah, I mean, Beck's interesting because the numbers, and again, this isn't a numbers award, and I hate to say that, but he's been fantastic. He's just playing the game. Like he's doing everything it's asked of him and winning games, most importantly. There's not a lot of flash to his game. But yeah, this thing is wide open. Like Jeremiah Smith. I mean, I know it's gonna be tough for a receiver one, but there's so many good players. And by the way, I was thinking about this week one. You had Arch and Nussmeier and all this, and it is completely flipped.
Klubnik,
like this is
Sellers,
wide open. Klubnik, Sellers. It's like the top 5 preseason are literally not even the top 10 anymore.
Yeah, no, I know it is wild. Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you got young kids and you've got your own podcast, Throwbacks. You got to go check out Throwbacks, everybody.
Appreciate you, man.
Of course. It's always fun. I was on with you and Jay the other day. What was that? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. Well,
Week
start
one?
of the season.
So
Ohio State, Texas. I had to get you in your busiest week of the year.
That's right. But man, I appreciate you coming on this program. I always love chatting with you. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.